This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your local Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
We are ready to rock at NRG Stadium. Whitney Merciless with the sack. Throws left side of the end zone. Caught. Hopkins. Touchdown, Houston.
Hello there, and welcome into a Victory Saturday version of Texans Extra Points. I'm Drew Doherty. I'm your host, and I got two of my good pals with me, and John Harris and Mark Vandermeer, both of the Houston Texans. You guys had a fun time on Thursday night calling that win, didn't you?
Boy, I love beating those guys. I really do. I don't love it as much as he loves it, but I love it.
We're going to get into it, so just sit tight. But we got to get some news of the week of, what went down out of the way first. We do that with quick hits, and we start with, the guy under center, number 4, Deshaun Watson. He, like the rest of this team, needed a bounce-back win in a big way, and he was very cool, calm, and collected, as you might expect, in the aftermath of the win over Indianapolis.
No, it's definitely great, especially a divisional win to take the lead in the South. But it's a lot more football to play. But definitely every win in this lead is very tough, especially coming off a short week against a great team.
Watson, of course, tosses 2 touchdowns to DeAndre Hopkins, and boy, it's good to have number 10 on your side when you're throwing the football.
I mean, you have a guy that has been doing it for a long time. I mean, you look at DeAndre Hopkins' stats in his career. I mean, they're incredible. Everybody knows he's got awesome hands.
Hopkins, the only guy to find the end zone on Thursday night for the Texans, but Will Fuller actually led the way in receiving yardage. It was huge having Will back in the fold because the Texans able to go deep again.
Well, it was a short week, so it was tough. We had our walkthrough, so I really didn't get a chance to really test my hamstring. So I don't know. I really didn't know what to expect, but I'm happy I had a big game, and I helped the team win.
So what's next? In 8 days, the Texans have the Patriots, and that's going to be another humdinger here at NRG Stadium in prime time.
I haven't beat those guys yet since I've been in the NFL, and this is a great team, AFC game. Obviously, those guys are number 1 right now in the division, in the AFC. So we got to come out and play our game, take it day by day.
All right, before we threw into that last soundbite, I said humdinger. I might use some other 1920s, 1930s words to describe what's gone on lately, but let's talk about just how massive this win was for the Houston Texans. Let's start it with you, Mark.
Well, you had to get this one to retake first place in the division. If you lost it, you're really playing uphill, potentially for a wild card spot. You would need help to win the division, and you'd need to maybe win out in order to do that. Mm-hmm. Look, there's a lot of football to play, but you had to get a leg up on the Colts, split the season series, and then when you look at common opponents, stop me. Don't make me look at common opponents and things like that. You have the Patriots next, that's what's important. But I think we should appreciate this for what it was, a monumental win over the Colts, and you had lost 3 straight to them heading into it, including the playoff game last year.
He says monumental, and he's absolutely right. Gut check as well, because of what you'd seen the Sunday before, and because of what you'd seen the time before when you played Indianapolis back in Week 7.
There's no doubt, and this team takes it out of you. They're so physical, and they just want to browbeat you. I mean, they want to just get 4 or 5 yards of carry, and they want you to answer them physically. And if you don't, you're going to end up walking out of there with an L. I don't know that they played the perfect game on Thursday night, but what they did was they made the plays that were there, and having Will Fuller back was absolutely massive. But Mark talked about it. The math is you lose to these guys. Now you're a game down in the standings, and you lost both of them. You don't win a tiebreaker there. It would have been a long uphill struggle to get back to the division lead. Wild card would still be there, but now, what do they call in tennis? Holding serve. Right. You held serve on Thursday.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see both of these teams in January, no matter what. One will be a wild card, one will be the division champion. But he just referenced Will Fuller. That's one of many weapons that were on display Thursday night. Let's just start there with number 15. How huge was it just to have him back in the fold?
Well, Johnny could probably diagram plays for days about how Fuller takes the top off the defense, stretches the field, and opens things up underneath. What was interesting to me is not a lot of involvement with the tight ends in the passing game necessarily. Fells had one catch, but it didn't matter because Hopkins was sensational, Fuller was sensational, and they ended up running the ball better as the game went on. I thought the fourth quarter was interesting. They owned the fourth quarter. Yeah, they were getting gashed on the ground for a while, second and third quarter. That 42-yard drive after the pick, the deflected pick in the first half, was alarming, the way the Colts were able to push the line of scrimmage. But then the Texans got it together. Both sides of the football, complimentary fourth quarter, crunch time, they made the plays to win.
He brings up crunch time. Let's stick with those weapons, though. Yeah. The arsenal there back for Deshaun Watson. I mean, it was so fun to see.
Yeah, absolutely. When Will Fuller's out on the field, and in the first half, he had a couple of key catches. And the Colts go down and they score and they take the lead. The first play after that, Deshaun dials up a deep one to Will. Hopkins had a touchdown, Fuller had a touchdown in that half. But that's all they've played in those 4 games. Now you see them both together, and the results, well, everybody saw it Thursday night. When you have Fuller, Hopkins, and Watson together, you can see what they can do.
Deshaun Watson, if there is a pattern to be seen from him, one of many patterns you can finally or supposedly say, when he has a bad game, he typically bounces back and has a really good one. He, like the rest of the Texans, did not play well against the Ravens the Sunday before, but he bounced back huge, and he bounced back when they needed him.
No matter how good a player is, when you take a shot to your confidence, you got to find a way to get it back. That, to me, is what Will Fuller allowed for Deshaun Watson to have, is to get kind of a boost of confidence. I think Deshaun needed that. And once he hit that deep ball, it was kind of like, all right, D4 is kind of back where we want him to be. But he was fantastic. He stood in there. Let's give credit to the offensive line. We haven't talked about this. One sack for -1 yard. That was it. -1 yard. Only 4 quarterback hits. The offensive line did a pretty good job holding up against a group that's given them a lot of issue in the last 4 games.
It's a rugged defense, and we're going to get into more of this matchup that we just saw after the break. But first, this guy right here, he's going X's and O's on us with this week's version of the Telestrator.
Welcome to the Texans Telestrator, presented by BMW. I'm your host, John Harris, and we're going to take a look at the go-ahead, what turned out to be the winning touchdown from Deshaun Watson to DeAndre Hopkins. And it's pretty simple, right? Just beat man coverage, throw it deep, catch it, Telestrator over, right? Well, that's not that fun. So let's dive into what we saw in this play. Now, you'll see Duke Johnson's going to go in motion here outside. What that does is it bumps the corner out here, and it bumps Leonard here. Now, once Duke gets lined up out wide, you see these 2 safeties right here. When you see 2 safeties high, you're thinking, okay, that's some kind of cover 4, some kind of cover 2. I'll be honest, not totally sure what these safeties are doing. What's going to happen on the snap is Malik Hooker is going to do this. He's going to move down and maybe try and poach number 3 coming across on the over route. Maybe he's going to catch Kenny Stills here, but he moves down near the box. This safety stays wide. He doesn't go to the middle of the field. He stays wide right here. What they did was they rolled the dice. I don't blame them in some sense. Pierre Desir is thought to be a Hopkins killer, at least that's what all the Indianapolis fans tell me, is that, well, Desir is the only guy to cover Hopkins one-on-one. Well, you're going to see here that that does not happen. So what the Colts are going to do is essentially play zone from the numbers this way. So they're going to play zone through here. So as you see Deshaun take the snap, you see how Hooker walks down here? He walks down. Kenny Moore plays here. He plays here. This keeps this in front. He's going to jam Fuller here. And they're basically just playing zone. But Hopkins is going to go one-on-one down below. And he's going to shake him with a little shake move to the inside. See that little right move? Boom. See that foot, right? That right foot gets Desir to bite inside. And then bang, goes right by him. And all he gets, I shouldn't say all he gets. That in the NFL, that separation right there, that's worth its weight in gold. Because when you have a quarterback back there that can throw the way that Deshaun can, that's gold. And then look at him pull away from Desir. There's the separation right there. Look at even more there. And Deshaun throws it right there. And as I saw this live, and that's me right here, and that's Dr. Lowe right there, As I saw this initially, I thought he overthrew him. But he puts it right in a spot where only Hop can get it, makes a whale of a catch. Now, one underrated aspect of this, which shouldn't be, check out the protection on this. When Duke goes out of the backfield, Sheard's wide here, got Justin Houston wide here. They're taking an angle right there to meet at Deshaun Watson. Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard do an excellent job. Look at Titus get all the way out here to get square on Sheard. And look at Laramie get out here on Justin Houston. This is phenomenal. And then these three take care of that right there. Stewart spying. And Deshaun, look at that pocket. Look at that pocket, man. You love that. And if he didn't get DeAndre, look at Kenny. Kenny would have been wide open too. Launches it. Touchdown. Ball game. Simple as that. Texans 20, Colts 17.
You know, if Deshaun Watson were a skater or a surfer or a snowboarder or something, you could say he got some major air on Thursday night, because this throw to Will Fuller traveled 59.4 yards through the air. It's the third deepest completion by any quarterback in the entire NFL, so he gets some major air, brah. Way to go, Deshaun Watson. We're proud of you. I'm Drew Doherty. You're John Harris, and you are Mark Vandermeer. That next-gen stat was powered, of course, by AWS, but let's talk a little bit about the defense. Bent, never really broke. And isn't it amazing how much easier things are in the secondary when you have guys like Jonathan Joseph and Garyon Conley and Vernon Hargreaves, guys who had been first-round picks playing, as opposed to what we saw the last time the Texans played. It was a mash unit out there when they linked up in Indianapolis.
How many turnovers did the Colts have in this game on Thursday night? All right, so 0, right? If I told you they're going to run for 175 yards and not turn the ball over, I'm thinking they're scoring 28 points minimum, right? But the Texans held them to 17 because they got better as the game went along. I mean, that run defense was hurting for a while against this Colts attack. And, you know, you have no Marlon Mack, but like we theorized, and I think you were doing this on the radio over the course of the week, it almost doesn't matter who's running the football for Indy. They're going to find a way to make some holes. But the Texans came up with the big third down stops, and you mentioned it. Defensive backs, you have a lot of new faces. I mean, every week it feels like there's a new guy out there, and this week it was Hargreaves making plays.
Yeah, the last time they played, it was Crossan, Crawford, Philip Gaines, Lonnie Johnson Jr., names that were either first year in the league or first week with the team. Now you got a little bit more experience, guys with a little bit more of a pedigree.
Well, it helped that Garyon Conley had faced the Colts earlier. In fact, one of Garyon Conley's best games this year was when the Raiders went up and beat the Colts before he joined the Texans. I don't remember them throwing at Garyon a whole lot in this ballgame. And this just saying Vernon Hargreaves can play.
Yeah.
He fits the inside position very, very well. And I was worried about that just because of the communication factor. But he's so quick, and I think he's going to be a real good find for them on the inside. But the two plays I thought from the secondary that were just tremendous. Vernon Hargreaves gets his hand on a ball to T.Y. Hilton, and then down the sideline later in the fourth quarter, it looks like Hilton's going to reel one in, and J. Joe just punches it out. Those two pass breakups were absolutely massive, and it just showed how different this secondary can be going forward with the pieces that are there. And hopefully, somewhat soon, we'll get Bradley Roby back there to add to the mix as well.
Yeah, and he'd been playing the best cornerback position, or playing best at cornerback for the Texans so far this year. Mark, 16 tackles for Zach Cunningham, 11 tackles for Benardrick McKinney. The guys in the middle there, inside linebacker, absolutely stepped up.
Yeah, like we said, it was extremely physical. I think Cunningham's incredible. When you look at that player, when he was drafted, you know, and McKinney's still playing really well. He's a Pro Bowler, and here's Cunningham coming in to lead the team in tackles last year, this year. He is all over the place making plays, and he's so physical. And you guys see him, you know, wearing that 41, you think he might be a little more slight than he is. He walks into a room and he eats up a doorway. You know, so he's playing outstanding football. Look, they, like we said, it's all about how many points the opponent scores. They held them to 17. That's all that matters. I know the rushing yard total doesn't look so nice on the stat sheet, but look, it's a Thursday night game. You're not out here for BCS points. It's not a beauty contest. They got the job done, and it was another unforgettable game in this series.
All right, speaking of beauty, let's talk about about the most beautiful players in this game. It's the Gatorade Players of the Game. Who is your choice overall?
Well, look, I know that usually I pick offense because of all the glamour and everything, and let's face it, but I'm going to go DJ Reader on defense because every week it feels like he's this movable brick wall that you can slide in front of people and they're just hitting him square on, and Watkins had a nice brick wall kind of hit as well. But, you know, I love what Reader does up front because as much as we talk about the linebackers and everybody else, it seems to all start with him. I was going to say straw that stirs the drink, but he's a very big straw. It starts with him up front and him getting that push, whether it's a running play or it's a pass.
He's one of those smoothie straws, you know, the big thick ones you can get the milkshake in. All right, who's your
Well, I was going to pick Zach Cunningham, but we kind of just talked about him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the layup. I'm going to take Will Fuller.
Oh, okay.
You bring Will Fuller back, 7 catches, over 140 yards, just changes the game offensively for the Texans, and will do so going forward.
I'll go another easy one. DeAndre Hopkins, 2 touchdowns. That second one, I mean, that's vintage DeAndre Hopkins. And then he also has the toe tapper earlier in the game. That was fun. And why would anyone overrule any close catch with DeAndre Hopkins or throw a challenge flag with any? I mean, the guy always comes up with it time and time again.
I got to say, though, it was another one, that toe tapper on the sideline, another one where you thought, I don't know, but why do I ever doubt it?
You just got to always trust in DeAndre Hopkins.
Well, the two officials they collaborated again on it. And they got it right, though. I will say they got it right in Baltimore. They got it right on Thursday night.
All right, good Gatorade players to watch. Good on you for sticking with us here on Texans Extra Points. We'll be back in a moment.
Second down. Watson gets the snap and he airs it out deep down the left side. Watch DeAndre Hopkins, and Nuke makes the catch for another touchdown. The Texans retake the lead.
Another football for the family. 30 yards to DeAndre Hopkins.
Welcome back to the Ford Studio. This is Texans Extra Points. Drew, John, and Mark. And guys, let's start to look ahead and let's kind of look at the landscape of the AFC South. So Texans win. They're now in sole possession of first place. But you still got Tennessee kind of hanging around and Jacksonville as well. What's your take on the things going on there?
If I'm Tennessee, I'm actually thinking, hey, I've got the Texans twice. I know that they have a 7-win mark at this point, and I've got 5. But I'm going to play the Colts. I'm going to play the Texans. I've got games in front of me. With if I win them, I can make some headway here. As far as the Colts go, though, it's going to be tough for them because if they don't somehow capture this division, you think of wild card possibilities. They lost to the Raiders. The Chargers are probably out of it, but you never know. They lost to them as well. It's going to be pretty interesting. I just think the Texans, look, it's no picnic to play the Patriots. And nobody's a picnic, let's face it. Look, Denver should have, would have, could have beaten the Colts up in Indy, and you have Denver coming in here after New England.
Still got a nasty defense.
You can't look past anybody in this league. The Titans are going to be tough. You have 2 with them. The Bucks can give anybody a game, but the Colts have to go to Tampa Bay just like the Texans, and they still have to go to New Orleans, and they're pretty good last we checked.
Yeah, if you want to look at it from that perspective, the Texans get the Patriots here. The Colts have to go to New Orleans, and we know how difficult that is, and the Saints are probably playing even better now than they were in week 1 when we faced them. But the Titans could be sneaky in all this, but you guys have been around me long enough. I've talked about the Titans. There's a ceiling, there's a cap on what those guys are going to be able to do. I think with Ryan Tannehill, they feel emboldened to be a little bit better. They'll get a few guys back healthy. You know, Jeffrey Simmons is back on the field. But there's just a limit, I think, a ceiling on what they're going to be able to accomplish.
Well, and you've carpet bombed them the last 2 times they've come into this building.
Right. And
you've absolutely destroyed them.
And they've got to go to Indianapolis. So they've got that trip as well. And
they don't win that game usually.
No.
They don't win either of them. It doesn't matter whether it's in Nashville or Indianapolis.
We're going to wrap things up for this segment, but before we do, got a little Texans trivia, and over here, you guys be quiet. When was the last time the Texans had beaten the Colts here inside NRG Stadium? They did it this year in 2019, but when was the last time? We'll have more on that a little bit later.
Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your local Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
Welcome back. Texans Extra Points rolls on for one final segment. Drew Doherty, John Harris, Mark Vandermeer. The Texans trivia question was, when was the last time the Texans had beaten the Colts at NRG Stadium? You got to go back to 2016 in overtime. That was a fun one. So, guys, let's get into the FCCU keys to the week ahead. It's normally the keys to the game, but since tomorrow the guys are going to be taking off, we'll start with you, John. What's the keys to the week ahead for you?
Well, we talked about Tom Brady a little while ago. I think one of the biggest keys is trying to find a pass rush. Where's the pass rush going to come? You know where Brady's going to be. Brissett, Minshew, Lamar Jackson, you didn't quite know where those guys are going to be because how mobile they are. You know where Tom's going to be.
Yeah.
He's going to put himself right behind that guard, center, guard trio and dare you to get back there. So how do you do that? Do you do it with a four-man rush? Does Jake Martin continue to show the pass rush off the edge? Where do you get that pass rush against Tom Brady to make his life miserable when he comes here on Sunday night?
Fair enough. What about you? What are your keys?
Well, he's game planning already, and I'm thinking that you said keys to the week, so yes. Regen, as they call it, is crucial here because you get this mini bye following the Thursday night game, and so they're taking this weekend to get their bodies back, and I think it's very important. I know they just had the bye going into the Baltimore game, but that was a tough week when you have two games, Sunday and Thursday, and now you have a little extra time to get ready for the Patriots. I think they got to get back to the fundamentals here because they've been very good in not picking up holding penalties until Thursday. They picked up two. Pre-snap penalties like false starts, not so good. So they need to really improve that kind of stuff. This is a good week because you get that Monday practice. You have one extra practice this week. Monday practice to help work on some of the fundamental stuff and get ready for New England. You have to be very sound. They don't make the mistakes usually. You have to match that, and you have a good chance to win here in this building.
I think one of my keys is there's going to be some cooking. They're going to be concocting something on offense to kind of throw these guys off because I think there's some things that they still have in their toolbox or whatever you want to call it that the Texans have just not shown yet this year. So I think that's going to be one of them.
Spin the wheel, as Bill O'Brien said.
I like spinning the wheel. That would be fun. All right, Mark, John, it's always good to be with you guys. I really appreciate you taking some time to talk some Texans with all of us, and we will be back again next week. Thanks so much for watching Texans Extra Points. Until then, go Texans.